Hello everybody, Andy here, and today I want to have a quick look at something called A Song of Ice and Fire Miniatures Skirmish Game Tactics. So, for those of you unaware, A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game, has been around since, I want to say 2020. Do you know what A Song of Ice and Fire is? It's Game of Thrones, there you go. Except I believe the era they do it in is actually before the books. Pass. I don't know. I don't care. I actually don't like A Song of Ice and Fire. There you go. I don't like the world. I don't like the series that much, as everybody after season 5, right? So I've never really looked into that series before because I don't like it. And, you know, when you're playing a miniatures game, it's all about the theme, right? However, I like skirmish games. And I kind of like, you know, fast, intuitive experiences. Therefore, board games are really good for me. And any time I'm kind of tackling a war game, I'm actually like really niche about my desires for it, which are, you know, the more like a board game, the better. For me, personally, probably, in reality. So anyway, they're going to release this bad boy, which is a skirmish version of their full-scale wargaming. Their full-scale wargame is just called A Song of Ice and Fire Miniatures Game? Wargame? Yeah. Which is rank and flank, okay? I actually played it yesterday. I'll talk about that in a moment. But I played it yesterday because I saw this a few days ago on GameFound. The company Simon is doing this tactics game. Obviously, their big selling point is, look, you can buy a huge dragon. Understandable. And, you know, I like skirmish games, so I thought I'd look into it. They have the rulebook online. It's only a whip, but let's be honest, it's probably pretty close to final, apart from some typos, you know. So I thought I'd tell you how the game, or how the rulebook looks like it might play, and also just kind of go down and have a brief think. I've got it in the background, as you could tell, because I'm actually setting this green screen up for something else, so this video is actually just a practice run. And I needed something to talk about, right? I was just going to do it for my patrons, but I thought this released interesting. Cool, so basically this is, what am I talking about? It's a board game. There you go. That's step one. We see here just behind me these tiles. So you won't be playing it on a generic kind of, you know, 22 by 30 board size. You might have, today you're playing on tile 1, 2 and 3, or then maybe the next scenario is tile 2, 5 and 7 or something like that. And then you also put your terrain on top of those in different configurations. And every unit has its own card, although there is an app that will actually have all of the details for you if you don't want to use the cards. There's an interesting list building system. So the list building and in the game, the command points, if you want to term it that way, is the same thing. So a small game is like, you buy everything in coin, which obviously makes sense thematically, cool idea. You can spend gold, silver and copper to buy your army. And then on the tabletop, if you want to use a powerful ability, it might cost you gold, silver or copper. Every activation costs you 1 copper. It's an interesting idea, actually, thematically as well as how it might actually play. Obviously, I can't tell you how it actually plays. Yeah, and everything, it is a board game, so everything moves in, you know, a move is three squares, right, which is fine. Everything gets 2 actions, which is very standard skirmish game styles. Let me tell you this, I will say, being someone into Kill Team, having that ability to play with the default number of actions that you can perform, it adds so much theme and flavor to the game that I really miss it when another game is just flat, you get 2 actions. Yeah, being able to have a faction, this team is 3 actions is really, really cool. Anyway, not the point. We're talking about tactics. A Song of Ice and Fire tactics right now. How does the game play? So it's a D10 game, which is cool. I like a D10, nothing wrong with that. Combat is super simple. It will have a stat on a card. It will tell you how many dice you roll, the target number, go ahead, roll that dice. And then the enemy, for every hit you get rolls that same number of dice and they have a defense value. Boom, super easy. Movement, as already said, there's ranged, there's melee. You can see behind me there's mounted. So the mounted characters cost too much gold to use in a small game, but can be used from a medium game upwards. And when their mount dies, they jump off and fight. That's cool. Or they could just be taken on the ground as well. Also, again, this is a skirmish version of their large game, but all of their models can be used. They're cross-compatible. You can just swap some of your models out in the large game for these small guys. Cool, cool, cool. And in fact, some of the models are the same, I think. So some of the generic, I don't know any of the names. So some of the generic guys here are the same generic guys in the large game. Cool. Now, obviously, you're seeing this big dragon here, and you're seeing 260 bucks. I think this guy's like 3 foot tall. He's either 2 or 3 foot tall. He's massive, and honestly, that's fine. Like for $260, getting a 3 foot tall model is totally fine. Yeah, pretty good, to be honest with you. However, the base game is $60, which is like, damn, that's not bad at all. What about game size and game length? So the smallest game size, and now this is just me figuring things out based on the cards that they have released and having read the rulebook, okay? So the cards that they release, the models that they have shown, so a small game is 2 gold, 1 silver, no, 1 gold, 2 silver, no. It's some gold, some silver, 12 copper, okay? Which basically means you're going to have 6 models. There you go. You're going to have 1 leader, 2 champions, I think they're called, and then between 3 and 4 henchmen, depending if you go on the cheaper guys or the more expensive henchmen for your faction, which is cool. How's that going to play? I've got absolutely no idea. How long is it going to take? I have absolutely no idea. I haven't actually played it, right? And that's a small game. A larger game is essentially just double that. A mid game, sorry, because you get double the amount of copper. Each time you go up 12 copper, 2 gold, 1 gold, and then, no, 1 gold and 2 silver and 12 copper. So if a medium game is, if a small game is 6 models, then a large game isn't double. It's going to be kind of a third again. So you might be looking at 9 models, maybe 10, depending on if you go a lot of the small guys or a few of the small guys. And then I would assume a large game is going to be about 15 models, roughly, you know? And that's cool. And that's pretty much it. I can't really say a huge amount more. It looks very interesting. Now, I personally have 0 interest, as discussed, in a Song of Ice and Fire. However, I was out playing War Machine yesterday at my local, one of my local game stores, Factorum in Warminster, cool place. And I was playing War Machine, and after playing War Machine, my opponent said, hey, I know how to play that game, because there was a bunch of stock on the shelf behind me, and I was talking about this. And he said, do you want me to show you? And I said, you know what? I'm interested in the skirmish version. Sure, show me. And that's really cool, because now I can actually talk about the model quality a little bit, and that's it. Because actually, the 2 games share very few mechanics, to be honest with you, apart from understanding your stat. You know, oh, you need 4, you know, you roll 4 dice and you need this number to hit. Apart from understanding that basic concept of attack and defense, not much is shared between these 2 things. So the models, I'm going to be honest with you. So, okay, so they look exactly like this. They come in a single piece. They are coloured plastic, whatever your faction is. I actually have no idea what colour these are. Are they like eggshell white? They might be an ivory, or yeah, I actually don't know what colour these are. They could be bright yellow. I really can't tell. And I actually legit have no idea what colour these are either. So, these colours aren't great for me, I'm going to be honest with you. Are they just like dark red? Anyway, whatever. I literally don't care. So the models come like this. They all come in like molded plastic, like vacuum formed plastic. So they just slide right back in after you've played with them. No assembly, nothing like that. And there's a couple of things to note about that. Firstly, are they good quality? I would say from what I saw yesterday, where I just played the Song of Ice and Fire starter game between Stark and Lannisters, I think they are possibly the best quality board game miniatures I've seen. Which means that they are a soft plastic PVC, come in one complete thing. They have really good detail. Like, I have absolutely no complaints about these models, to be honest with you, especially for the price. You get so many models for like the cost, no assembly, nothing like that. Really cool. However, and this is why I said the thing at the beginning, which is I quite like board games, right? And so this being a board game, and in fact, a Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game, which is rank and flank, being very, very a board game-like. So you know how Fantasy Flight games tend to use a lot of markers, tend to use a lot of kind of board game elements. So does this game, despite it being rank and flank. And that speaks to me. That works really well for me. So these models being board game components, totally fine for me. And I really like the fact that they do come as colours. So you are, in a way, not incentivized, that's the wrong word. You are not pressured to have to paint them. Whether in tactics or in the full-scale game, because your faction is one colour and any other faction is a different colour, you know, no two factions share the same colour, you don't have to paint them at all. You can just say, hey, I'm gonna, you know, put them down as is. And that's actually really enticing, because for me personally, looking at the large game, if I had to paint all those models, it would be an instant no. I'm never gonna touch this game in reality. However, the box, like the starter sets that they sell come as a complete army, and you literally, as soon as you open it, can take your stuff out, put them on the movement trays, and that is a ready-to-go army. That's really nice. I'm not going to lie, that speaks to me personally and my complete lack of desire to paint anything. So, you know, cool. Now, personal note again, on the the quality of the models is great. I really like what you get for what you pay for what they are. Yeah. Most of these, yeah, I don't like A Song of Ice and Fire. So, you know, knowing that these guys have names is completely irrelevant to me. If anything, I don't really like their names. I think they're a bit lame. But I could just pretend it's like not Game of Thrones, and that works just as well for me. So, yeah. Oh, here we go. These Baratheon Wardens, and I think the Stag Knight, these are the same, I think. I'm not exactly a connoisseur of the miniatures game here, but I believe that these are just identical to the full-scale game. So if you already have Baratheon Wardens, you can probably just run them. But again, because there's no hobby requirement, it kind of doesn't matter. You could just have more of the models, that's fine. And then these will be alternate sculpts. There you go, cool. And as you see, D10s instead of D6s. D6s are the main size game, D10s are this game. Have I missed anything? I suppose I should elaborate a little bit, perhaps, on, oh, here's more terrain. I suppose I should elaborate a little bit on the thing I said at the start. So a small game is, you know, 2 gold, 4 silver, 12 copper, whatever it is. And you then use your coin of the game scale size to activate your models. If you run out of copper or if you run out of coins or units, then your turn ends, it goes over to the other player. It is, of course, alternating activations, all skirmish games are. That's cool. And to activate a model, you pay 1 copper. And then you might have some abilities on your card, and typically they will cost you a certain number of coins to do. So you can still do basic actions. You can move, fight, charge, interact, whatever, for free. You still pay your copper to activate them. But then everything you're doing, your 2 actions are free. However, let's say you're attacking, you might have an ability that increases your attack or your defense or whatever, and that will cost you additional coins. So for example, there's one guy, I can't remember his name, but he has an ability where you can pay copper to increase your attack, and it's an unlimited amount. So if you want to go all in and just roll, 6 dice instead of his standard 2, or whatever the numbers are, right? You can just spend all of your copper to do that. I'm not saying you should, obviously. But yeah, so that's kind of a thing. I think that's a relatively unique ability. I don't think you are normally going to be able to spend like half of your team's copper to do a really big strike. That's his specific thing. Most things might be like, spend an additional copper on the charge and you can roll an additional dice. Something like that. And that's a really interesting idea of having your list building number be specifically tied into like how you can perform on the table. Now, I've got to be honest, I originally thought, so looking at this here, right, very board game-esque, right? Which on this makes total sense because you're playing on a hex board, right? Sorry, a gridded board. So it totally makes sense, right? Of course, this is basically a board game. But you kind of get all of these like little tokens and cards and stuff in the full-scale game as well, just there's no board. So, interesting. Oh, it tells you the size here. 78 centimeters. Quick maths. Okay, two and a half foot. Nice. That's pretty big. Pretty big. Good luck carrying that. Would be a cool model just as a scenery piece, but where am I putting that? I don't think that even fits at the top of my shelf there. It's too big. I'd have to clip his wings. I assume that dragons in the Game of Thrones universe would love to have their wings clipped. That seems like something a bestial, proud race would enjoy. Cool. Anyway, I think I'm done. That's everything. That is A Song of Ice and Fire Tactics. It looks interesting. I have not yet backed. Why have I not backed? Why am I kind of saying, hey, this looks really cool, but I'm not backing? At least I haven't backed yet. Because, so the base game is like $60. Bargain, I really want that. However, shipping seems really steep. Yeah, there you go. And I know that it's going to release in like a year's time or whatever in retail. So I'll probably just wait for retail. Not because I don't think it's worth the money. It's just $60, cool, not a problem. But then like a third again. And I'm like, well, if I just wait, I'll probably get it for cheaper and not that much later. Do I want the big dragon? I mean, kind of, yes. But in reality, I'm not going to paint him. I'm not going to use him. And I literally won't be able to build him because he then can't be stored anywhere. So what do I do about that? I don't know. And obviously, as we see here, there are some channels that have done some previews of it, which is super cool. Not me, because I've never spoken to Simon. So this is just a completely off the cuff. I'm interested in this skirmish game because I like skirmish games. And then I suppose the final thing I'll say is that having played A Song of Ice and Fire war game yesterday, I was actually really taken by it. Yeah, I can't lie. It seemed exactly my kind of thing, a really nice blending of board game alongside war game with the ease of a board game. but the fun of miniatures, and yes, I don't like A Song of Ice and Fire, but I could just pretend they're generic medieval dudes, and that works for me, you know? And then you also have like an off-board shenanigans thing where yeah. I was very taken by it, I can't lie. To the point that I will probably buy something. I'll buy at least one of their starter sets, because again, I don't have to do any hobby. If somebody comes round and says, Andy, let's play a game, I'll say, okay, this would be just as viable for me to whip out as any board game, as Dice Throne, as Judgment, as anything. So yeah, I enjoyed. I would recommend that you check it out as well. Go check out A Song of Ice and Fire Tactics 2, and see if you can find yourself a demo game of their full-size game as well, because again, value, gameplay, pretty solid. Alright, well thanks for watching everybody. It's been very gangster. I'm gonna go. Green screen, yeah, woo!